So do you have a principle that permits you to determine when we should go to war?
Yeah, the principle is advise and consent of the Congress and the checks and balances with the executive branch and the legislative branch.
Right. We should always get the Congress's permission, according to the Constitution.
Yeah, it's
Right.
Article 1, Section 8 says
Right.
that Congress shall declare war.
Right.
And the President as Commander-in-Chief then executes on the Congress's will.
Absolutely. But I was asking a slightly different question, which is, do you have a principle that permits you to determine when we should go to war? In other words, just...
the principle depends on the enemy, the purpose, the commitment, and the threat.
To clarify, you wouldn't be in favor of going to war just because the Congress said it was okay, right? They may be mistaken. Is that correct?
Well, look, we put our full faith and credit in our government, and our government acts for the people. So you don't know whether it's right or wrong until it's been executed. But certainly, I give my full faith and credit to the checks and balances that they're going to do the right thing for the right reasons. It's going to be debated. The American people are going to have an opportunity to hear the arguments.
Right.
So chances are, if the Congress acts with informed consent, it'll be the right decision.
Is it possible for the Congress to make a mistake in some instances, for you to say, well, in this case, I think they made a mistake?
That's the right of the American people. We have the right to
so
disagree with our government.
So just because they approved it doesn't mean necessarily that it was the right thing to do. It is constitutional and legal, but it might still be wrong.
That's every decision the government makes.
That's true.
So our government, we're not a perfect society.
Yeah, I was trying to get is, what is the principle that you use to determine when we should go to war and when we shouldn't? So
when the threat is a clear and present danger to the United States, either we're at the threat of an imminent attack or we've been attacked.
Okay, other than that, we should not use military force, right?
It's on a case-by-case basis. Maybe we should, but it should only be done with the advice and consent of the Congress and the input of the President.
Should we, in what other cases is it proper for the United States to use military force to go to war?
Well, there's a definition between war and a limited action, like Reagan did against Gaddafi, like Reagan did in Grenada. There's nuances to presidential power. Now the real question is the War Powers Act constitutional, which has never been challenged by the Supreme Court. That will really be the determinant factor is when it's proper for America to go to war.
That is a very good question. I agree, and it's apparently, as far as I can tell, it's not constitutional. But in this case, it has nothing to do with it because there's no imminent threat.
There is no imminent threat to the United States, in my opinion. That's correct.
So the principle that you offered was self-defense if we're attacked or in imminent threat of attack. Right. And then I asked you, is that the only reason? And then you said, well, no, there might be some other reasons.
Well,
that's what I wanted to. I wanted to see if your principle was limited to self-defense or it was more expansive and included other situations.
I think we should keep our minds open, but also stay true to the Constitution.
So sometimes we should attack another country, go to war, even though they didn't attack us, or where there is no imminent threat.
Not go to war, but maybe we need to respond.
You mean bomb them, like we?
Or maybe enter a conflict for a greater purpose, help another country. Look, we wouldn't have had our revolution in America without France.
So sometimes if we want to help another country, that's a valid reason?
It could be to a point. It depends what the situation is and what they're asking for. There's humanitarian support, which we can help with. Some people consider that an act of war, by helping one side against another. So it's not just troops, it's investment of American tax money in a country that may be having a problem. So I don't want to preclude everything, but generally speaking, the principle should be either imminent attack or we have been attacked, and then there should be advice and consent of the Congress.
So in order to do a humanitarian action, that would be one reason that might be legitimate to use in order to go to war?
Not to go to war. Maybe
well, to bomb or to intervene militarily?
Not to intervene militarily, but to give help to one side or another if it's in America's best interest.
Well, military help, right? Are you talking to something else?
I'm talking something else. You can give food and supplies.
Oh, you mean like give aid?
Yeah, you can give aid, sure. In a country that we feel is in our best interest, I think in some instances that's appropriate.
Okay, what's your name? Because I didn't get your name.
Brad Blakeman.
Brad?
Blakeman.
Blakeman.
Right.
Thank you for sharing your views with us. Maybe I can ask you, because I'm not clear about really what this principle is. I says, first it sounded like you were saying in self-defense is only when we can go to war, but then later you said, well,
not
to
war.
help other people.
No, you're using the war.
I'm just asking that, what is the principle? This is
principle
my
to go-
question.
the principle
My
to go-
question is this: do you have a principle that permits you to determine when you think we should go to war and when we should? What is the principle?
Imminent threat of attack, or we have been attacked.
So only self-defense, right?
Self-defense, correct.
Right. So these other reasons are not good reasons to go to war.
To go to war,
Right.
correct.
Right. Or to bomb someone. Right. Well, okay. So
a limited strike.
When we went to war in Iraq to liberate and protect the foreigners over there, that was wrong, right? According to your principle.
No, because President Bush sought congressional approval and he got it, and,
yes.
and he also went to the
but
UN.
Iraq had not attacked us, nor was there an imminent threat of attack.
Oh, I disagree.
Oh, Iraq had attacked the United States?
Yeah, Iraq gave aid and comfort to the enemies that attacked the United States, Al-Qaeda and others, and they were in violation of international law by amassing weapons of mass destruction. Where do you think Syria got their weapons of mass destruction from?
But they didn't attack us, did they?
There was an imminent threat of
from Iraq?
Of course, sure.
And
against American interests.
And wasn't Saddam? He was not a religious fundamentalist. He was a secularist. So he was fighting against the fundamentalists and trying to keep them under.
You don't think Saddam was an enemy of us?
Saddam was.
He didn't say he was an enemy of
Well,
us?
we helped him. Did we help him in the Iraq-Iran war? Did we help him?
There comes a time when people help us and then turn on us.
Right.
Haven't we seen that time and time again?
Absolutely, but we did help him and we gave him weapons.
One time we did help him,
right.
and then he turned on us.
Right.
And then he became an enemy.
Oh,
so
but an enemy is a very vague term in the sense that did he attack us, or was
there an imminent threat
that he was going to attack the United States?
And attack our interests, sure. Yeah.
So for 26 years he was in power and he never attacked America, even though we had a no-fly zone. We bombed them to hell all the time when we wanted.
Didn't Hitler come to power and he didn't attack anybody until he got strong enough to do it? Isn't that so?
So you think it's possible that Saddam could get strong enough to attack the United States,
or
invade us, and dominate us, the world superpower?
But he could hurt our interests.
He never did. He never. In other words, this guy was a coward.
And that's why we took him out.
But
how do you know he wouldn't use it?
Let me ask you this: if there was one guy that we could be sure was not going to attack us, it had to be him, because he had been in power for 26 years.
I totally disagree.
He never attacked us. We hit him. We bombed him. We imposed a no-fly, and he was just quiet. He didn't do anything to us.
Well, he violated international law. The UN voted 16 sanctions.
Well,
the Congress weighed in, and we took him out.
So is your principle that if they violate international law, then we can go to war with them?
Yeah, if there's a international.
That's a different principle. There's a lot of times
because we form
they violate.
Coalitions.
In this case, Assad is violating international law.
But he's violating international law. But
and,
the UN has yet to weigh in on it.
But he is violating international law, right?
He is.
And so.
But where's the international community? We don't have any support.
Well, I agree with that.
So?
But the point is, now I see that.
Then it comes back to the United States.
And then your principle is not self-defense only.
And self-defense of others.
Defending other people. Well, that's much different than self-defense.
Well,
defending other nations, like
right.
Every nation in the world, we have to be defending them.
What do you think NATO is?
But do we should we?
If somebody attacks France, don't we have an agreement that an attack on France is an attack on the United States?
We do have such an agreement.
So if France is attacked by Syria, should we help them?
And if we didn't have that agreement,
should we help them? Yes or no?
What?
France is attacked by Syria. Should the United States help them?
We shouldn't have that agreement in the first place because we don't need it to defend ourselves.
Baloney. That's what.
Okay, so you think
that's crazy.
You think that the United States is in peril and not safe if we don't have NATO?
France,
and which country is going to attack the United States?
It remains to be seen.
No,
but NATO prevents attacks to the United States.
We don't need NATO or any country.
That's your opinion. Why don't you run for office?
I'll tell you why.
Run for office, and then you'll be able to.
I'll tell you why. Because we have 8,000 nuclear weapons,
baloney.
warheads.
That
and
alone is
there
not a
isn't-
deterrent.
There isn't a single country.
That alone is
Of course it's a deterrent.
I said the only deterrent. It's not the only deterrent.
Anybody that attacked the United States would be committed suicide, right?
Well, why did Al
Would they
Qaeda
be
attack
committed?
us? Why did Al Qaeda attack
Al
us?
Qaeda is not a nation. Al Qaeda are terrorists. They attacked us.
But don't they live in nations?
They live in nations,
And
but
don't
they
nations
are.
permit them to exist in their country?
That's right. And should we attack another country simply because there are some Al Qaeda people there?
Absolutely. If they're
We
a
should
danger
attack
to the
them.
United States, you bet we should attack them.
We should attack the terrorists, but not the nation. It's
Where do they
different.
live?
Where they live, we attack them.
So don't they live in a nation?
That's right. We
So
attack
then you
them
attack
where
the
they
nation.
are because they are
You're
attacking
defeating
us.
your own argument.
Okay.
You're defeating your own argument.
Thank you.